the poem. And this is something completely different. The Christian community that John is writing to have moved past their first Jewish convert beginnings. It is spreading across the Mediterranean, becoming rooted in communities that acknowledge the Jewish origins of their faith, but are Greek-speaking and less culturally connected to Judaism than were the earlier communities. They are facing new questions and using new words and concepts borrowed from the Greek way of thinking to answer new questions that were not of interest to the Jewish converts, who were steeped in the assumptions and thought process of the Jewish scriptures and traditions. They are also communities beginning to experience resistance and even persecution. In these kinds of communities, John writes his gospel. The basic elements are all there, that Jesus did this and did that, he died and rose again, but it's quite a different treatment that is altogether more developed and explores new themes that are unacknowledged in any of the other scriptures. John's gospel opens with an extraordinary rich prologue or introduction. It's beyond our scope to go into this in any great depth, but in this prologue, this introduction, we are grasping with a different kind of question than the Jewish converts were dealing with. What was the nature of he who was born? Where did he come from? In what way exactly is he connected with the divinity? What way is the person Jesus connected with the creator of the world? John's introduction begins, "In the beginning was the Word," which is the same way as Genesis begins, and so introduces a word familiar to Judaism. In the beginning was the Word. But in John's treatment, that word is being molded and shaped by Greek ways of thinking to express a concept that in mainstream Christianity is so universally accepted that it's hard for us to grasp how radical the idea was at the time. The word, often in this context described as the logos from Greek, is introduced rather unremarkably, as I said, but before we have time to really get to grips with it, we're already backing into new and rather different territory. The Word was God, and at the same time distinct from God, a co-creator. This is heady stuff and goes well beyond the strict belief in there being only one God of the Jewish tradition. We're barely getting our head around the concept that the Word became a pre-existent expression of God, linked but distinct from the Father, when we are brought down to earth and into history with the introduction of John the Baptist, who is the witness to the Word, the witness to the light as it's described in the text. The co-creator of the world, who is now in the world, is significantly not welcomed by his own people. However, and this is the central part of the whole introduction, to those who believe him, he gave the power to become children of God. Children, mind you, not by being born in the ordinary way or being part of the bloodline of Abraham, but rather by believing in his name. The reader, a Greek-speaking, persecuted minority, is being reassured and encouraged that they are the true heirs to the traditions of Moses, and what they have received from Christ is much more than has been understood as the promise to the Jewish people, because he is not just another prophet among prophets or a spirit gently wafting down from the heavens. He is the pre-existent Word of God made into flesh like ours, who is physically present with us and through whom we can be caught up into the same relationship with the Father that the pre-existent God had from the very beginning. We can have confidence in this because Jesus is nothing other than that Word, this Logos made flesh that has been intimately connected with the Father since before time, and for a period dwelt in time and in place as the person of Christ, precisely that we may know God as Father. So the Word was God and was with God who created the universe. He came into the world as a human being, greater than John the Baptist or Moses. He is the very fullness of grace and truth. He is God, the Son, the only Son who made God known to us. And we can have life if we believe in him. This prologue, this introduction, is usually linked to the Christian story because it's a very evocative, poetic, yet theologically rich affirmation that Jesus was the pre-existent Son of God from the very beginning of creation. But there's no manger, no star, none of the chocolate box elements, and one really has to wonder, is it a Christmas story at all? In fact, John's main point seems to be an encouragement for the new breed of Christian who are not Jews, experiencing persecution and not sure of their place in this seemingly very Jewish story of the Messiah promised to the Jews, but who have rejected him. It's John saying, lads, I know it's tough, but it all makes sense if you look at the bigger picture. The Word, who was so intimately with God from the beginning, actually came down and dwelt among us for a time, and in doing so offered to each one of you the chance to share the intimate relationship with the Father that he has. Don't get sidetracked by persecutions or the failure of his own to receive him, because your faith makes you his own more than any natural child of Abraham. Stand firm. It's a Christmas message, but not as we know it, Jim.